Kira with ATV.com, and we're here in New Mexico at the beautiful Imus Ranch. And we're here to check out Kawasaki's 2025 Brute Force 450. Now, what do you really look for when you're checking out an industrial ATV? To me, I think we're looking for ground clearance, we're looking for storage capacity, we're looking for the load, and then we're checking out comfort. So on the 450, we have about 9.3 inches of ground clearance. We have 7.6 inches of travel in the front and 7.9 inches of travel in the rear suspension. So in the front and rear cargo racks, we have about 75 pounds of capacity up front, and we have about 150 in the back. And in regards to what we have for storage itself, I would personally say it's not like you have a lot of storage, but that comes with the accessories. So we have a cup holder and a kind of a little storage platform on the right-hand side, and then you have a little bit of space under the seat, which personally is not the easiest to get to, but you know, if you're just keeping, let's say, your registration or a first aid kit, something that you know you're keeping on the vehicle all the time, that's a nice feature. With the accessories, you can get a front and rear basket for surprisingly not that much MSRP. I think it's, don't quote me right now, but it's in about the $150 range. And that's a really nice option when you just want to throw a load on top of your rig and haul it around the property. Nothing too complicated, really easy to strap on. So on the racks and on the additional storage baskets, they have these dimples that make strapping on any loads very easy. And then if you want to opt for one of their enclosed cases, that's a super, pretty sizable space, which to me held pretty much anything that you could throw into it that you'd come across on the farm. So really nice option there. When it comes to the comfort, obviously you're going to be on this a lot of the day. It's not necessarily for leisure, so you want to make sure that you can manage being seated, standing in any sort of temperature on the farm, any sort of terrain for a long time. And I'd say first thing I noticed was how plush the seat was. It's got a nice wide setting, wide saddle, so that you can kind of adjust yourself most of the day depending on your height. I'm obviously a little bit on the petite side, and yet it still served my purpose as well. I was really comfortable standing or sitting. You have the actual steel metal grips that are on the floorboards, which are very nice when it starts to get a little bit slick outside. The plastic ones do, but to me they're so flimsy and they really don't have the same sort of grip as one with steel in them. In regards to the ergonomics, I feel like you're not reaching too far for the handles. The placement of the instruments on the handlebars are really nicely spaced. Even for me, I would say at my height and my size, I'm reaching a little bit further with my fingers, but I'm not the usual size. And for the most part, everything is very accessible with your hands, which can be overlooked because after a long day on the trail, it can get fatiguing. And another part of that that's really nice is having the 3 options for brakes. We have one on the left-hand side for your rear, you have your traditional right-hand side front-hand brake, and then you have one on the floorboard for the rear as well. And that's nice because when you're transitioning between standing and sitting, having the options really does help. And it makes it so that you don't really have to think, it's very intuitive. The display, very easy to see in most of weather situations. I didn't really have problems seeing, you know, my speeds and anything else that I needed to check in regards to the vehicle. And I had some good line of sight. I mean, for me, again, being shorter, it is a concern to be able to see properly over the handlebars, to be able to see over my front end, and I didn't feel like I was lacking any visuals. And at the same time, I felt like the suspension, they have the AR suspension in the back, they have locking differential options, and really easy 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive switch on the handlebars. And that to me, the suspension plus the 443 cc's in the engine really made for a comfortable, responsive ride, especially when we went over some of the more complex terrain. You know, on the farm you have everything from wide open gravel dirt roads to maybe a little bit more rutted dirt areas, a lot of mud at times, and in this circumstance we had a bit of rock shelves to climb over. And to me, I felt like the 450 really handled that well. And you know, in a circumstance where you do have terrain that's a bit more complex like that, for someone my size, or maybe for someone who's a bit more of a novice, having a mid-size range like Kawasaki's 450 is clutch. A vehicle that's too big, which, you know, a lot of people love the 750 brute force, but for me that would just be too much to handle, especially if I'm also carrying a load or towing something. Managing a vehicle that size is too big, whereas the 300 might not be able to do all the tasks that I needed to do. And so this vehicle really covers a void in that market. And that's exactly why Kawasaki designed this. It is not just a smaller engine in a larger platform. They really designed the whole body, chassis, everything to align with its new liquid-cooled single-cylinder motor. And you can tell, it looks like it's supposed to be that size and used for that kind of middle-grade purpose. And just to touch on the rest of it, I really do appreciate that they kept the more aggressive, mean look of the 750. The 750 got an upgrade, or so they say, a facelift last year, and it really made, just for a more attractive, approachable vehicle, it's something that you can be proud of in the garage and look forward to riding out on the trails or just on your property. So I'd say from my more humble experience on the industrial side, I do think that this vehicle, for someone like me, maybe for someone who's not necessarily a power sports enthusiast but really does want to use these vehicles to their full capacity as utility machines, the 450 really covers a lot of bases, and it has a very approachable price point. Right now they have an introductory cost of $6,699, and that's until December 31st, and then after that they raise to $6,999. But still, very, very reasonable price for what you get. If you like this sort of content, please feel free to like the video, subscribe, and check out ATV.com.